In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
This was Eisenhower's farewell speech in 1961, explaining how much more money spent on the military meant so much less for the people, that every gun made, warship launched, and rocket fired signified, in the final sense, a theft from those who were hungry and not fed, those who were cold and never clothed. This world in arms, then and now, is not spending money alone. It's spending the sweat of its laborers and the genius of its scientists, even the hopes of its very children. The cost of a 1961 bomber equaled the cost of 30 different schools in separate cities, or 2 electric power plants serving towns of 60,000 people each, 2 fine, fully equipped hospitals, and things have only grown exponentially worse. Back then, there were no predatory lending practices, no payday advances, no car title loans. And this has only been the case since the military-industrial complex has really taken a stranglehold. Other countries know how to distribute their resources, benefiting the people, benefiting the whole. The U.S. does not. This graph illustrates that fact as bold as any. It's from 2018, and note that the defense budget only increases annually. A whopping 51% of the money we have to spend domestically and on military is spent on defense, on the military-industrial complex. Our crumbling highways, archaic electric grid, and yearly cuts to all health and human services needs are due to this fact. And until people wake up and make the connection, it's just going to continue that way. Just to add some context and further illustrate my point is this other 2018 graph by the Peterson Foundation publication, illustrating that the United States spends $6 billion more that year in the budget increases annually for us than the next top 10 spenders on military put together. China takes up about a fourth, maybe a little less, 20 to 25% of those 10 countries. The rest are rather evenly distributed at about $100 billion each. And there's good reason for that. The first reason is this: the US dollar is the world reserve currency. Especially when it comes to oil, all transactions in oil must be done in US dollars. That's the holy alliance between us and Saudi Arabia, and the reason that we back them without question, always. Given that our dollar is failing and the world's starting to recognize that, we're amping up our military to strong arm, if necessary, it to remain as the world reserve currency in the petrodollar. The other reason is that these other countries aren't pillaging their middle class to support a military-industrial complex capable of such barbaric expansion of U.S. imperialism forced upon the rest of the world. You can see the steady increase and decreases, but from about 2000 on, where we just dominate on expenditure, and we've expanded military bases into 174 countries. We are the Russia that you were trained to fear. Now, I know no matter what I say, there's a certain group out there that's always going to feel like this. Blinded by nationalism or MAGA Trumpism. You've bought into it. You drank the Kool-Aid, and you don't just believe. You know that America is the best, deserves the best, that all Muslims are bad, and that we should be the world's police. We're the strongest, best, most important country in every aspect that you could possibly imagine. The fact is that we and all of us as U.S. citizens are victims of a propaganda machine so vast and coordinated with surgical precision. It's been sharpened since the 50s to the point where we literally can't see right from wrong. In 1983, acting CIA Director William Casey was 3 times independently confirmed to have said, and I quote, "We'll know the propaganda machine has completed its task in America when the public believes that the lie is the truth and the truth is a lie."
The old cynicism is gone. We have faith in our leaders. We're optimistic as to what becomes of it all. It really boils down to our ability to accept. We don't need pessimism. There are no limits.
For those of you that require a more concrete example of propaganda before you thought, it might be worth your time to start unspooling the thread a little bit, let me take you back to the beginning prelude to the Operation Desert Shield, the first Gulf War. One of the big motivating factors was plastered across 600 different television channels were images of this Kuwaiti princess being deposed by Congress, crying about the Iraqi soldiers were going in there and taking babies out of their incubators and dropping them on the ground. And this led to an uproar in American concern and ultimately advocacy to go into war with Iraq to protect the Kuwaiti citizens. That deposition was later proven to be completely manufactured. It was all fabrication. The girl that claimed she was a princess was actually the daughter of the Kuwaiti ambassador to the United States and had been trained, like coached in how to act at the deposition by 12 separate super high-profile PR firms in the Langley, Virginia, and Washington, D.C. area. Let's watch that video now of her lying her ass off to get us to go to war.
While I was there, I saw the Iraqi soldiers come into the hospital with guns. They took the babies out of the incubators. Took the incubators and left the children to die on the cold floor. It was horrifying.
For helping us orchestrate this bullshit demonstration that's going to allow us to go kill a bunch of innocent people and feed the hungry greed of our military-industrial complex buddies. So maybe the next time you're watching the news and you see something like this,
and there's definitely something that stings.
These backpacks belong to Malaz and Masa.
maybe you'll take pause, because that was used just in the same way as Princess Naira to run a successful bombing campaign on Syria, on Damascus for 3 days by Trump in 2017. Or perhaps you'll see grainy footage like this, alleging that it's the Iranians planting Libyan vines in a Japanese or English oil tanker. There's no way to tell if this was taken on the ocean or in the Great Lakes in 1956. There's no distinguishing marks or anything on here. No different than the New York Times, who released that video about 3 months ago, alleged that the Russians were bribing Afghan soldiers with bounty money if they killed American troops. About 3 weeks later, they redacted that on page 7 below the fold, with about a third of the below the fold section, just a tiny little corner of redaction. The left still uses it as a talking point today. We use propaganda to go to war. That's the fact. People need to do some independent research, because all of your media has been infiltrated. Research Operation Mockingbird. Research the Gulf of Tonkin incident. Research the Iran-Contra affair. The list goes on, but your media is infiltrated. It's a state-run media. All three are served only to manufacture consent in the public and to keep us fighting each other, keep the left and the right fighting each other instead of fighting our common enemy, Washington, D.C., the Citizens United legislation, and the military-industrial complex. Please stay tuned for more episodes, and thank you for watching the Post-War Show.
There's a great video floating around the net today that was rediscovered. It's the time in 2007 that George Bush accidentally told the truth about world affairs.
So I wonder what your thoughts are about how you further tighten the financial pressure on Iran in particular, if it also means economic pain for a lot of our allies.
Yeah, it's an interesting question. One of the problems, not specifically on this issue, just in general, let's put it this way, money trumps peace sometimes. In other words, commercial interests are very powerful interests throughout the world. And part of the issue in convincing people to put sanctions on a specific country is to convince them that it's in the world's interest that they forego their own financial interests.